right, verse 16. Then the king gave orders, and Daniel was brought in and thrown into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, "Your God, whom you continually serve, will himself rescue you." And a stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of his nobles, so that nothing would be changed regarding Daniel. Then the king went into his palace and spent the night fasting, and no entertainment was brought before him, and his sleep fled from him. Then the king got up at dawn, at the break of day, and went in a hurry to the lion's den. And when he came near to the den, to Daniel, he cried out with a troubled voice. The king began speaking and said to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you continually serve, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Then Daniel spoke to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me since. I was found innocent before him, and also toward you, O king. I have committed no crime." Then the king was very glad and gave orders for Daniel to be lifted up out of the den. So Daniel was lifted up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. The king then gave orders, and they brought those men who had maliciously accused Daniel, and they threw them, their children, and their wives into the lion's den. And they had not reached the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones.
Yikes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so grisly in there. So, again, the king's behavior here is very telling, right? Mm-hmm. He's not like Nebuchadnezzar, who kind of goes up and down and stuff. Yeah. And he's also not like Nebuchadnezzar. I think this is like a great contrast. So when he throws Daniel into the lion's den, he says to him, "Surely your God will deliver you from this."
Right.
Right? When Nebuchadnezzar throws Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the flaming furnace, he says, "No one can save you from my hand."
Right.
There's already a huge difference between Nebuchadnezzar and Darius, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So the king really believes that Daniel should be rewarded for his loyalty to God, right? He also feels like Daniel has been loyal to him, right? And so the king, who knows that Daniel's been loyal to him and knows that he can't save him, he wants God to save Daniel.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So the king then seals Daniel in. Now, there's a couple reasons why this might be. The first one might be to prevent him from escaping.
Yeah.
Right? The other reason, though, might be to prevent others from trying to kill him if the lions did not.
Right.
They don't want anybody messing with it. If it's sealed, they know that nobody changed the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? It's clear at this point that Daniel has real enemies.
Yeah.
So it's possible they could have been lying in wait to make sure that Daniel dies.
Yeah, and it's interesting some of the parallels that you see with this and sometimes other places in the Bible. Obviously the big parallel that you see is they put Jesus in the tomb and they rolled the stone over it and they sealed it.
Yeah.
That was the thing that they did because just like you're saying, they wanted to make sure that nobody would come in and steal his body. In this situation, they wanted to make sure that not only did he not get out, but nobody else got in. Yeah. But I also think about similar to Jesus, the Pilate who had the power to free Jesus and was like he could have, he had all the power and he was not strong enough to do so. And again, we know that the King Darius, once he signed that, it was law and it couldn't change. But when you think about it, he was the king. He could have if he wanted to. Right. He still gave the order.
Right. I totally hear what you're saying there. I think the trouble for Darius is that he is the Mede king.
Yeah.
Right? And as we're going to find out, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Persians were the real powerhouse, right?
True.
And Darius was placed there by another king.
Yeah.
Right? And we remember this too with Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar and all of them. Belshazzar was actually the second king of Babylon,
right,
behind another king. And he was going to make Daniel the third king, basically, right? That was his whole plan, right? So there's a lot politically.
Yeah.
But to your point, he could do it.
Right.
he could do it. He'd have consequences,
Yeah.
but he could do it,
Yeah.
right?
This is what I was going towards, and I forgot. The other parallel that you see here, as he's throwing him in, he says, "May your God, whom you serve, continually rescue you." It's very similar. I think about when Abraham takes Isaac up to sacrifice him, as God tells him to do. He says, "The boy or guy are going to go up here, and we will be back."
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an expectation there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, Darius is still full of anxiety.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes home and he is fasting, and he is not taking any type of entertainment.
Yep.
And,
Not necessarily praying,
Right.
but he's greatly troubled.
Right. He's greatly troubled. Right. All right. So he comes back running at the break of dawn. So as early as he can, he comes back, and he asks Daniel, "Has God saved you?" And Daniel declares, "Yes, God has saved me. He sent an angel. He shut the jaws of the lion." And he did this because, for two reasons. Daniel had committed no crime against God,
Right.
and Daniel had committed no crime against King Darius.
Right.
God knew that he was innocent in both accounts.
Right.
Right. I think sometimes we talk about like, oh, like we're subject to these rulers, but I think especially in modern day, especially in America, we have a tendency for revolution.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's kind of where we came from. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for that. But like, there is an idea of being resigned to the penalty of the laws of the land.
Right.
Right. And being willing to endure that for the sake of knowing that you did what was right in the sight of God, knowing that God will justify you. But in this case, God justifies Daniel and takes care of Daniel in both places, right? And
Right.
his eternal judgment of like, you didn't sin against me.
Yeah.
As we see that because he went home and he prayed to God, not to Darius. And then you didn't sin against Darius because how is this even a law?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And not only does God protect him from that, but they face the consequences.
Right. Exactly. Right. So even in following the edict, Daniel did not betray the king, and not following the edict. So Daniel was thrown into the den like the decree requested. So he took the consequences. That doesn't mean he had to stay there. Right. I think
Right.
this is kind of interesting. Like he just had to be thrown in overnight.
Yeah.
So whatever happens to him, the edict is served.
Yeah.
Right. So he doesn't have to die.
Right.
The edict doesn't say he
Thrown
has
in the lion's den.
Right.
Yeah.
It just says he has to be thrown into the lion's den.
They're assuming that they're going to be eaten by the lion. That's what's going to happen.
And that's
Yeah.
that's why if you're a satrap in the Medo-Persian Empire, you should not assume. Right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is the king then pulls him out. He's excited. He's glad. But then he takes all of these guys and he brings their families even. And he says, all right, the thing that you wanted to exact upon Daniel, I'm now going to exact upon you.
Yeah.
And he throws them in. And the lions respond immediately.
Yeah.
Right. And it's pretty brutal. It says that they overpowered them and crushed their bones before they even reached the bottom. So like
Right.
midair, these lions are attacking.
Jumping and yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a very important reason for that, that is in the book. And that shows that like they didn't not eat Daniel because they weren't hungry.
Yeah.
God shut their mouths. This was 100% by God. If God had not intervened, the lions would have eaten him.
Yes.
But God shut their mouths. And the second God takes his hand, Daniel comes out and God takes his hand off of it,
Yep.
boom.
Right. I think it's important to remember here too, or consider that your immoral actions can affect more than just you.
Absolutely.
Right. This can impact your whole family. And that's exactly what they did. Their children, their wives, they were all thrown in.
Yeah.
And they all died with them. And that's a horrible thing, but it's also
Right.
the fruit of their
Right.
deeds. Right.
And this isn't the only place in the Bible where you see that, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I think that is an important thing to remember, especially if you are married with children. When you yes, God will punish you, but and again, we're getting kind of in the weeds here because we're righteous saved by Christ. But they are Your family is affected, I guess.
Your family is affected
Yeah.
by your decisions, right? Like
Yeah.
God forgives us, but that doesn't always excuse like the repercussions.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing here that like we got to remember that like before we give ourselves a pass to do something
Right.
for our own gain or for our own purposes, that's maybe a little nefarious, maybe not as bad as this, but it can have a traumatic impact on the rest of our family.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.